Hitler's appearance in Venice underscored the terrifying possibility that the two fascist dictators might join forces. The Venice meeting was a disaster. In the beginning, the imperious Il Duce in complete dress regalia snubbed Hitler, who arrived in a blue serge suit. Mussolini was cool and condescending. The differences between Hitler and Mussolini were best characterized by their acceptance in the Western world, especially America. In 1928, his autobiography was serialized in the conservative Saturday Evening Post. The House of Morgan in 1926 loaned Mussolini $100 million. In a gesture of friendship, President Hoover gave fascism a boost by graciously receiving Mussolini's foreign minister at the White House. Such international figures as Winston Churchill found his policies commendable, and Will Rogers, after a personal interview, called Benito Mussolini a regular guy. Cole Porter's hit song began, "You're the tops, you're Mussolini." Even FDR had an affinity for Mussolini, who he referred to in a letter as that admirable Italian gentleman. Prior to Italy's invasion of Ethiopia, no authentic public opinion surveys were taken in the United States during Mussolini's regime, but it would be safe to say that the majority of Americans approved of Mussolini. Many actually admired him as a romantic, if somewhat clownish figure, who, as the saying went, made the trains run on time. This attitude was fostered by a number of sympathetic authors and journalists. Anne O'Hare McCormick, writing for the New York Times, found Mussolini an incarnation of the ancient splendor of Rome, a revered statesman not intoxicated but mellowed by power. Lincoln Steffens, a widely syndicated journalist, waxed poetic that, I quote, "God had formed Mussolini out of a rib of Italy." As early as 1923, however, Ernest Hemingway wrote that Il Duce was the biggest bluff in Europe. For the blacks in America, it took a flamboyant figure, Marcus Garvey, to remind them of their African heritage. In the 1920s, his Back to Africa national movement influenced many blacks. A colorful adventurer and aviator, Colonel Hubert Julian, known as the Black Eagle of Harlem, urged his people to join their brothers in Ethiopia. Blacks were developing a political consciousness. Novelist Richard Wright described their bitter legacy. "Our outward guise," he said, "still carries the old familiar aspect which 300 years of oppression in America have given us. But beneath the garb of the black laborer, the black cook, the black elevator operator, lies an uneasily tied knot of pain and hope." In the summer of '35, many American blacks signed up to go to Ethiopia. There's no record of how many, if any, actually did go. Nevertheless, the hostility between blacks and Italian Americans became intense.
There are a number of them, riots in Harlem and in Little Italy and Mulberry Street in New York City. And there were clashes reported in Chicago and San Francisco between blacks and Italian Americans. But the most dramatic episode occurred during the heavyweight prize fight between Joe Louis and the Italian contender Primo Carnera. There were riots afterwards outside the stadium and knifings, and some pistol shots were fired. The New York riot squad had a busy evening that time.